Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 2nd, 2024 Fee Committee meeting. I'll do a quick roll call. Councilor Denton.
Here.
Councilor Moreau.
Here.
Councilor Tabor.
Here.
City Manager.
Here.
And myself, Andrew Pergo, Deputy Finance Director, is here. If I could have a motion to accept the minutes of 2/15/2024.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And just a reminder, the councilors are voting members on the fee committee. We are just
Ex officio.
ex officio. Back to the agenda. Number 2 is consideration of draft city council policy and proposed new fee relative to the production of electronic records under RSA 91-A.
And we have Deputy City Attorney Trevor McCourt here to present this matter. There he is.
Go for it.
Thank you, Karen. Yep, so this policy was drafted initially by NHMA in response to House Bill 1002, which was recently passed, which permits, in limited circumstances, the charging of a fee for producing records in response to public records requests. As you all know, you're not allowed to charge a fee for public records requests above and beyond, reasonable copy charge, or in the case of producing records electronically on a USB, the actual cost to the municipality of that USB drive. But this law creates a new exception to that. It allows municipalities to charge $1 up to $1 for records above. When there are electronic records being requested, above 250 records in one request. There's definitions for what constitutes a record, which limits it. There are exceptions within the model policy for media requesters, for indigent persons, and there's one other category in there, I believe. But that's the basis of this policy. Is it would be a council policy, which would then permit city staff to charge for those really, really voluminous electronic records. Now, the new amended law also permits and encourages municipalities to work with requesters to, try to limit the request. That's something we already do as a matter of practice, but it's now been codified by statute. We've done that historically. I mean, as long as I've been here, and I know Suzanne, in her time as the point person handling public records requests, would do that regularly, is work with people to try and help them get at what they're really looking for. When you have these really big electronic records requests, usually the universe of what people are actually looking for is not going to get up to 250 records, and it's, in my experience, you're able to work with people to get down to a much smaller number, because that's really what is relevant to their request. So I think in practice, this is just another tool to help city staff manage time and manage resources to produce really just the records that are truly responsive to whatever the member of the public is seeking to accomplish here, and avoid these really voluminous requests that people just kind of put in and then don't think about again. And that's really what I think this is targeted at. And Councilor Tabor, you did present a question that you sent over that was forwarded to me about this policy, which is in regards to the 5-day response.
Yes.
Certainly, it was a really good question, and thank you for sending it over. I would agree that the policy itself doesn't really come out and say what the same thing that RSA 91A says, which is that the itemized estimate of cost shall be provided to the requester within 5 days. It doesn't come out and say that, but it does say that the estimate shall accompany the written statement of time necessary to determine whether the request will be granted or denied. And that request is required by 91A to be within 5 days. I have no problem including that explicitly, coming out and really saying it. I guess it's one of those things when you live it every day, inherently that's a requirement, and we would always follow that. But but I don't see any harm, certainly, in adding some verbiage to this policy.
Yeah, just for our fellow counselors, this is HB 1002, and it says, when there's a request, the government agency or body shall, within 5 business days of the request, make the record available, deny the request, or provide a statement of the time that needed, and if it's the over 250, and the itemized estimate of cost of making the record available. So I just felt that, the citizens should know they're going to get the promptness that the statute requires. That also, and if a citizen wants to contest the cost, there's a clock that starts on that, and a determination has to be made in 10 days. So
Sure.
I think that promptness is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. No, I agree. I will say that there, and in the guidance provided to us by NHMA, it kind of hits on this a little bit, that there are circumstances where providing that itemized cost may not be realistic within the 5 days. I think even internal to the Right to Know law, you can see that. I mean, it encourages us to work with people to try and get the scope of it down. So if we're working with them, we may not provide them with the itemized cost because we may not know the full extent of what they're asking for if we're working with them to get them what they really need. Other circumstances, maybe the record keeper is not available, right, is out of the country, unavailable, and, providing that kind of reasonable expectation is a part of it. And certainly, there are remedies contained within the law for, if someone feels that they're being treated unfairly. But of course, we will always make our best effort to provide that itemized cost, and we may provide it and then amend it later, or have to provide ongoing communication with requesters.
Right. I would propose that we just refer to in the time required by state statute.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I think that makes it clear, and then somebody really wants to know, they can go to the state statute and look at it, versus having to put more language into our
Yeah, you could even put a
policy.
catch-all at the end, the city staff will otherwise comply with RSA 91A and the production of all records. I mean, there are a lot of other requirements of what we can produce, what we can't produce, contained within the law, so it may not be realistic to put all of those requirements in, but you could just, I would take direction from the council or from the fee committee, and then the council certainly, of whether including the 5 days requirement is important there, or just a reference to the state statute as a whole
I think
is more advisable.
I would be fine with the reference to the state statute in the time required by
Sure.
the state statute.
Certainly.
I would agree with that.
Acceptable to the other counselors.
Yeah, I think it's more than sufficient.
I am in agreement.
Great.
So, thank you, Trevor. And now to the matter of the fee itself. Do we want to talk about that?
Well, I have a question sort of surrounding
After
that.
that.
So, they spell out the definition of what an individual electronic communication is. I guess I'm kind of wondering, how many times do we get these large amounts? Because obviously, chat messages and all that, how many times, like in a week or in a month, do we get requests that would go well above the 250 range? Is it-
Hardly ever.
Okay.
Hardly ever.
So it's
Council.
rare.
This is extreme. This is extremely rare that this actually comes up. I mean, most people, like I say, we work with people who are putting in records all the time, and if there was a request that would yield such a large volume, we would work with it. We'd explain that to them and say, hey, listen, how you framed it asks for this huge universe of things, but I think what you're really asking for is this instead. And more often than not, people say, oh, yeah, you're totally
They
right.
change their requests.
They'll modify their request accordingly, sure, certainly.
Okay, I was just curious.
And that's a back and forth that didn't used to exist, right? I mean, that's kind of facilitated by this.
Well, I mean, we did it as a matter of course. There was no requirement that we do it, but we certainly did do it as a matter of course, just trying to work with our citizens. Even though it wasn't contained within RSA 91A, we had an open dialogue with our citizens to try and get them what they're actually looking for.
I mean, the fee, when we're talking the fee, it's the max that the statute will allow, right? So I think it's appropriate.
Any other discussion?
Do we get more than a couple of year of these giant requests?
No. I mean, I can think of only really a handful that I've even processed of this volume in my time here, and they're memorable.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's going to be the deterrent that's going to force people to really narrow down their search, and that, I think, is a good idea.
Yeah, and the way an electronic record is defined, it's the entire email thread under a topic.
Correct.
This is,
Or limited to 50 texts. I don't think I've, other than my husband, texted anyone 50 times, so. Just,
Yeah, and I will say, even of the handful that I can think of, I believe at least one or two of them were from the Portsmouth Herald, so, that would be exempt
They'd be
from this
exempt
anyway.
anyways, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I did talk to Howard, and this was the subject of a lot of combined lobbying by ACLU, the media. I mean, it started off at $25 a record. And so I think
That would seem high, but I mean,
and with no exemptions, and so it's a much better.
you pay $1 per page at the Rockingham Registry in order to print documents. So $1 per electronic record seems very reasonable, and it's above 250.
I did not.
I mean, I compare it to Maine, where you can print 500 pages of documents in Maine for free before they start charging you. Just to compare.
No, it seems reasonable.
And I'm curious what the public has to say as far as public comment goes.
We're not there. Any more discussion?
Do you need a motion to pass?
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to approve the fee schedule as presented.
Okay, and we will be adding the
The additional, as amended.
right, as amended.
I was thinking the fee as
Okay.
schedule.
Very
That's
good.
all I was talking.
Would we be passing it or just
Recommending it.
recommending it to
Recommending
City
it?
Council
Sure.
for the
Yeah, so we're
Monday to 7th meeting?
So we're passing the recommendation from the fee committee.
Agreed.
So both
As
the
amended.
fee and the
The
policy?
policy. So the policy as amended and recommend the schedule as presented.
Second?
Great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we go down the agenda to the public comment.
We do not have anyone on Zoom.
And I do not see anybody here in public.
Unless they're hiding, I don't see anyone.
So, unless there's anything else, and a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.